Welcome, low ego action heroes. This is Debbie Levitt from deltacx.com. We're a full service CX and UX consultancy. Check us out if you get a spare moment. And today I'm going to talk to you about wacky stuff, and I'm glad I-10 is here. It wouldn't be a Friday reaction stream without her. So we're going to be taking a look at, let me get all my windows ready. This is Reaction Stream. This is where I take a look at wacky stuff or sometimes cool stuff that y'all send in, and I give you my thoughts on it. We didn't hold this last week because I didn't have stuff, but now we've got 5 things, so today we'll go for 20 or 25 minutes. Of course, as always, I want to thank all of the people who are helping out the channel financially, our junior, mid-level, and senior level low ego action heroes. And you know who you are. Here's our mid-level and higher on the screen now. So thanks to everybody who has been keeping me in cheesy videos and chocolate chips. All right, let's jump right in. Let me get my screens ready. As usual, I have a private browser ready to go, and that should show that. So you should see me, the chat room, the optional tip jar, and my screen. So I received this tweet from, hey, welcome, Steph. This is from Andy Budd, who I don't know, and I don't use Twitter, so I'm definitely not following. And he seemed to be responding to this person's tweet, which says, swooping and pooping is one of the worst practices leaders and managers do. It's coming in the middle of a decision, not asking enough questions to understand context or what's already considered, demanding specific action, then moving on. Ask questions, get context, empower. Okay, so it looks like Andy's responding to this, and he says, swooping and pooping is annoying for designers, and it's tempting to blame the swoopers. However, it's often a symptom of designers being overly protective of their work in progress and not feeling comfortable sharing work till it's 90% there. I completely disagree. I've not seen that be the case. If you have a leader or manager swooping in, not taking the time to understand context, and demanding actions without bothering to understand the context, that is not your fault. I mean, because to me, this tweet says it's your fault. And you know what? It's not your fault. You didn't make this happen. You could have socialized your work more. You could have been sharing it. But if somebody swoops in without knowing enough information and isn't asking questions, then if they come in and say, hey, show me your work and tell me more about what you considered, well, then that's not swooping and pooping. But I don't want to blame designers for this. So I disagree with Andy. And I think that's enough said about him. Not really a good reason to spend more time on him. Not into it. Next, we got this article. Now it's on Web Designer Depot. So it's not a Medium article. It's a blog on someone's website. So chances are they're looking to bring you to the website because this is generates business for them in some way. And it's called The Case Against UX Testing. Now, obviously, I'm going to consider this clickbait if we don't I guess, produce or offer a really good case against UX testing. I'm going to want to see a pretty good argument here. Maybe some statistics, maybe some examples, maybe something, that this person can tell us. But you know me. I looked up the author, and I tell you to do that every time too. Who is this author? So, of course, I went to LinkedIn and I looked up this author. And again, I don't know him. However, until he did his own, whatever this is his own company, so he can call himself whatever he wants. I know I do. His background is an editor, I guess at his own website, a web designer and front-end developer, a website manager, tech support, and of course here he says he's a senior designer and they use research. So it sounds like it's a 2-guy agency and they're claiming they use research, yet he's written an article against research and against testing. So here he is. I use user testing, but here he is recommending against user testing. I-10 says, is this really the case or just thoughts? You know what's coming, I-10. So basically, this article is not worth reading because ultimately he's saying, hey, who does UX testing even serves? This article is all over the place. And I remind people, when you are writing, you have to make sure that you're giving people something that is meaningful, actionable, and helpful. And the article is really all over the place. And really, he's saying, from a client's perspective, a UX designer should know through experience whether a green button is better than a red button, as if every green button is better than every red button. And designing an elaborate test to split test the button serves little purpose other than indemnifying the designer against mistakes. So again, it sounds like he's A/B testing. Now that's different. He's not, this doesn't say usability testing. This is an A/B test. So yeah, you don't want to do A/B tests? I'm with you. UX shouldn't be doing A/B testing. Then again, sir, you are not UX, you are a web designer. It's widely accepted that there's substantial ROI from UX testing. Good, stop there. UX testing works. It's good. There's substantial ROI. I'm going to go out on a limb and say without user testing, that site could have improved checkout retention by the same rate by hiring a competent, experienced designer. Now, if you do read this, ultimately he just proposes what we call genius design. Genius design is kind of the opposite of user-centered design. Genius design says, you don't really need to involve the user for research or for testing because the UX designer should be so good at this that they just know how to design the best thing. Do I see psychiatry in here, says Aitan. What UX designers can learn from psychiatry? Okay. Again, this article is really all over the place. And he's claiming you don't need user testing, you just have to use best practices. Now, personally, I think that this article, hi Olivia, I think that this article is really the best advertisement against hiring this person for anything. So certainly I cannot recommend this person, but if this person is going to not use testing, then I can't think of a good reason to hire them. Designers should be capable of making an educated guess. Designers should be self-validating. We don't need users at all, according to this guy. We just have to know best practices. Good Lord, Olivia, you're covered in mud. Sorry, everybody. Dog dropped by. So again, obviously this is clickbait, and this is hypothetically an article that should put this guy's own work out of business, because it's always important to work with users in research and testing. And if this, I think this guy wrote this just to try to substantiate why he doesn't do testing at all, or why he doesn't do testing well. Sure, we think we can get an ROI from testing, but designers should be self-validating and just know what to do. Steph says psychiatry? Wait, this should be psychology. Psychiatry is about diagnosis and treatment, clinical stuff. Oh yeah, I agree. He's got the wrong word here. But then again, he doesn't have anything right here. So, and why are we listening to someone who pretty much doesn't come from our world telling us why we shouldn't do these things? Why should we listen to the guy who says he uses user testing in writing an article that says we don't need to use user testing? So again, y'all can figure this out for yourselves. Critical thinking. This is just absolute garbage. Moving on. Aubrey Blanche, who I don't know. It says verified account, so I guess she's somebody, but I have to admit I don't know. Her, them, it says she, her. Solomon says it was clickbait. Yeah, it was. Aubrey says, equity at work tip. Always introduce marginalized people by what they lead and not what they do. For example, I'd love to introduce you to my teammate, Name, who leads organizing applications, ERG operations, new business development. They can help you with thing. And this person said, what if we said partner? So partner instead of teammate. So I think suggestions like these are good ones. I can't really complain about this. There's no clickbait here. The only thing that I wish this had is a suggestion for what if that person doesn't lead anything? What if they're a more, hey, Charlene, I've been wondering how you've been. Hey, Adair is here. I really want to understand why people have the need to this kind of things to themselves. Yeah, I don't know. That was for the last one. What would we say? Maybe y'all can brainstorm this with me. What would we say to if we want to introduce someone who is not the leader of anything? Maybe they're a junior or new. I wouldn't say they lead something. I mean, we can call them teammate, we can call them partner. But it says introduce them by what they lead and not what they do. But what if they don't lead something? That's where I'm getting a little stuck here. And I wish this person had given us kind of additional suggestions of what to do if somebody doesn't lead. Solomon says, hello, this is Jim. Jim does good work. Yeah. Maybe if I didn't want to introduce somebody by what they do and they don't lead anything, maybe I can talk about why I turn to them, like the way she says they can help you with thing. Maybe we should focus on, oh, I turn to this person for this, or I trust this person for this, or they can help you with this. I think you can leave that part in, but can anybody think of what you would say to introduce a marginalized person and not just by what they do? That's where I'm a little bit stuck. So I like the advice. 5 dogs out of 5. Certainly good advice when we have someone who does lead something. I'm just not sure what to do if they don't lead something. So if you have an idea, put it in the chat and we'll yell it out as we look at the next one. So this is Ko, and I follow him on LinkedIn, but I don't think I'm connected to him. So I really don't know him, but I usually like things he posts. I'm not sure about this one. I'm on the fence. So he says, when I'm hiring a designer and I see spelling or grammar mistakes on their resume or alignment is off, it says a few things. They don't pay attention to details, a critical skill for a designer. They didn't bother getting feedback from someone else, a critical method for a designer. They may not have visual skills or understand typography. And then I start thinking, if they care this little about how they present themselves, how much will they care about our projects? When I'm reviewing their portfolio and I continue to see other detail-related mistakes or issues that could have been caught with feedback, it becomes a consistent narrative. But this can be overridden with a fantastic portfolio. So I'm just going to stop there. And let's talk about this a little bit because I think I agree with him and disagree with him at the same time. On the one hand, I believe that attention to detail is really important. I definitely look for it in resumes and portfolios. I believe that your resume is your first chance to tell your story and your portfolio is your first chance to tell your story, but your portfolio is also your first opportunity to UX something for me. David says, depending upon where the resume came from to me, if it came through an automated applicant system, I don't put too much stock on the alignment. That's true too. If it has been garbled and mangled and parsed by something else, we need to forgive it. I assume he's not talking about that. Charlene says, his third point is a little bit weird to me. That's true. I've got terrible visual skills and I'm not so hot at typography, but I'm also not usually applying for a job that requires those. So again, when he says he's hiring a designer, we don't know if he means graphic visual brand marketing or if he means UX. The other thing that I would say about this is I find that while I do point out spelling mistakes to people when I look at their resumes and portfolios, I am less likely to count that against someone if English is not their first language. Italian's not my first language. And if I sent something to someone in Italian, I would want them to be forgiving. I would want them to have, you know what's coming, hashtag empathy for the idea that this is not my first language and I'm doing the best I can. Now, that being said, you can still run Grammarly. You can still have Microsoft Word spell check your things. I do recommend that people put things through spell checks, even if they're building a web-based portfolio. Copy and paste your stuff into Word, get it spell checked, read it out loud. You'll catch some of your errors that way. Yeah, Charlene says, what if English isn't your first language? Of course. And I think we have to be a little more forgiving for those people. So I don't think I would notice the misspelling or the bad grammar or stuff like that. But I try not to hold that against people because ultimately that's the way they're going to spell and write when they work for us. And it just means that we're going to need to do a little bit more proofreading on things, or we're just going to have to be forgiving of that. So I do think it's important for resumes and portfolios to have attention to detail and to do the best job possible telling your story. And I do think that cluttered resumes give me a bad impression. Resumes that don't tell your story give me a bad impression. But I try not to hold spelling and grammar against people too much because it might not be their first language. I-10 says, depends on the position. If they're a UX writer, but how about a designer or researcher? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, ultimately, very often people are preparing PowerPoints at work. They're putting words into wireframes, and we do want attention to detail. But no matter how much attention to detail I have, if I don't know how an Italian word is spelled, there's nothing I can do about that. And if my incorrect spelling is a correct Italian word and word or spell check doesn't count that, I'm not going to know. I'm just not. So I think that if we care about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we're going to have to be a little bit more forgiving of spelling mistakes from people with dyslexia, people with other conditions, and people who don't have English as their first language. Yeah, thanks, Steph, for saying the same thing I was just thinking. Some people might be dyslexic. Yep. All right, let's move to our last one and then we'll wrap this up and I'll see everybody on Monday. I still need something to do for Think Out Loud, so let me know. All right, so Jordan, who I don't know and have never heard of, so I have no opinion on him as a person. This says, user interviews don't need to be painfully long. I want everybody who hangs out on this channel to tell me which word I have a problem with in that sentence, but why I have a problem with it. I've had lots of productive interviews that were only 10 or 15 minutes. Know your goal, get in, get it answered, then get out. Who knows the problem with this post? I'm having a shake for dinner. How about all y'all? I'm waiting to see what somebody says about what I'm going to say. Oh, I am covered in blueberries. Sorry. Don't forget to tell me if I have blueberries on me, everybody. Okay, nobody's writing anything. This is very disappointing. Hey, who saw episode 15 about negative framing? When you say user interviews don't need to be painfully long, you imply that if an interview is relatively long, it's painful for you or the other person or both. Yeah. And I don't want people to get into their heads that longer interviews, like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour, are painful and bad and we shouldn't do them. And it looks like he had to kind of, backtrack a little bit. He wrote, a couple of people brought out that effective user interviews can go over 15 minutes. My point is that the length of your interview should fit the questions you have, not an arbitrary time limit. So basically he's giving you an arbitrary time limit and then he's like, oops, don't put an arbitrary time limit on it. So I think that this post kind of undid itself. And I don't want anyone to see something like this and feel like, oh, I was planning a 60-minute interview with someone. Oh no, I guess that's painfully long. I better cut that down. If that is the amount of time you need to do good work, that is the amount of time you need to do good work. Don't listen to anybody else who says, here is an arbitrary amount of time that you should try to make this, because you know what? You got to just get in and get out. And I say, okay, but sometimes I get in and 60 minutes later I get out. So I would say I tend to do longer sessions with people because by the time I'm recruiting them and involving them, I've got so many things I wish I could know. To me, it's almost a waste of time to only have someone for 15 minutes and not learn more about their end-to-end journey, their perceptions, their needs, their tasks. That's a waste, I think. I would say book at least a half hour with them and find some other things you can learn about them. I mean, if you can't, sure, book 10 minutes with them, give them some money and go. But we're so lucky to get these people in our interviews. We're lucky to be at a company that gives us access to users. Let's ask everything we want to know. That's how I feel. Let's see. So I'm going to press some buttons and hope that I don't mess this up. Hey, it's a big picture of me. I'm back. All right. So, thanks for the people who joined the reaction stream. That was everything I had, so it's a good amount. Steph says, people need to... Oh, David says, this is an attempt at sense that is really nonsense. Great comment. Steph says, people need time to get comfortable talking and trust you. At least 5 minutes already gone. Also a good point. You know, so many people teach interviewing techniques that include icebreakers or easy early questions. Hi, tell me about you. What's your job? So yeah, easing people into the process, whether you use icebreakers or not. So yeah, thanks for those great comments. Remember, Monday is Think Out Loud, and I'm finished with our last project. So if you have a realistic project you'd like to see, head on over to deltacx.com/links and tell me what you'd like me to start building, and we'll work on it. If not, I'm probably just going to ask the live audience for websites, and we will do audits of them. We will take a look at heuristics and some of the other things I look at, and we will assess audits, because a lot of people say, how do you know bad UX? So that's how we'll spend the time if we don't have a project to work on. Don't forget to tell 3 people about this channel. We need to spread the word and get more people involved in our streams. And Anna says, today I got an interview, about 50 minutes, as a junior UX designer, and I didn't have one question about UX. They asked me about business analysis and KPIs. Okay, so you're probably not going to end up working there. Now, in the case of what we just saw, they were actually talking about interviews where researchers are talking to users. But I'm happy you had an interview. I'm sorry that they didn't seem to understand UX. That's unfortunately too common. I10 says, thanks everybody. This was fun. Happy Friday. Work hard, play hard. I say work smart and play smart, especially with all of the cases exploding out there. So as usual, I'll be around in the Slack channel if anybody needs me. What's our Slack channel, you say? It's totally free to join. Check out deltacx.com/links, and you'll have links to our calendar and Slack universe and everything. Every question you have is answered here. So on that note, thank you for the smiley. Yeah, Charlene, where have you been? I hope everything's been okay. We've missed you. I was thinking about you today. So hey, I guess I'll play us out of here. Everybody be safe, wear lots of masks, stay away from people. Omicron's wild, and those of you who have it, you know who you are. Please keep feeling better. I'm thinking about you. So have a great weekend, everybody, and see you on Monday. Customer centricity as business intelligence. Visit deltacx.com to learn why we are